How's it going, everybody? Ben from the benbev channel checking in today with something a little bit different in the brief hiatus between Marvel shows and other properties. There's been a lot of movies I've missed over the years that I've picked up just off of an impulse because I know I'm going to want to see them somewhere down the road. I put 20 of those movies together and submitted to Facebook that I needed some random numbers to decide what to watch in the next weeks. This is the first of those movies. Synchronic is a 2019 sci-fi mystery film starring Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan and directed by Benson and Moorhead.
So as you're probably about to notice, I'm going to refer to the directing duo as Benson and Moorhead when it is in fact Moorhead and Benson for the entire video. Sorry about that, guys. Now, you may have heard of Moorhead and Benson as they've been making rounds in the underground sci-fi scene with movies such as The Endless, which I actually have owned for the last 2 years based off of its critical acclaim alone, but have not gotten around to watching yet, as well as other films such as Spring. And while doing research for this review, I noticed that Moorhead and Benson were actually tagged on to help direct and write the new Moon Knight series over for Marvel, and I'm really excited for that one as Moon Knight is one of my favorite Marvel properties. If anyone would be interested in me reviewing The Endless or Spring or any of the other Moorhead and Benson properties, just let me know below.
So while the movie rolls out with an opening scene of a young couple taking the synchronic drug and experiencing the effects with various objects from other times and dimensions appearing inside of a hotel, the movie very quickly switches over to a more grounded, realistic story of these two paramedics, Dennis and Steve, played by Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan, and really goes through their life and the toll that their job of working overnights in the emergency service really has on them. And I think it was a really smart move to focus on this the way they did. They hooked us in with that opening scene to let us know what this movie's really about and where it's going, and then they give us this really grounded human story for us to attach to, and you kind of get lost in these cycles of watching both of them discover these various ODs every night and the little tracer clues of the synchronic bags and the various run-ins they have with police and criminals. And when we switch over to the daytime scenes, we get to see a little more of the stark reality of our characters' lives, with Anthony Mackie's rotating bed of strangers and recently finding out he has cancer with no one left in his family, as well as the deep memory of regret with something to do with his family. They keep showing caskets pop up in a flashback every time he goes to sleep or closes his eyes. The imagery of these caskets, as well as the ambulance traveling through the city, and even just of them playing golf on the side as they have their nights off, are all really good at driving home this feeling of space and immensity, even though we're just in a small part of Louisiana from the perspective of these two guys. And Steve just kind of holds everything in and doesn't reveal to Dennis that he is fighting that cancer and begins to drink heavily and pop pills while they're on job. And with Jamie Dornan's Dennis, we just see him go home and really not feel at home in his own house, and the distance between him and his wife. These scenes of him and her lying together, having discussions, but they just seem so far apart even though they're right next to each other. And as you get caught up in this very human ER-style drama, the tracer clues from the synchronic bags begin to get more strange, with various objects appearing from different times, from coins to doorknobs to full-blown swords with slight warp and
variation. Synchronic. Adjective. Meaning occurring or existing at the same time or having the same period or phase.
And all of it really begins to come to a head when they get called to the fraternity home at the university, and we realize that Dennis's daughter is missing, which eventually leads to a confrontation between the two, which really is what sparks the story into full gear, as well as the driving force of what makes Steve begin to conduct these tests on himself to see what exactly his synchronic can do, and if his non-calcified pineal gland really can make a difference and help him be able to change the reality that he currently is in.
And so at this point we get this it's
almost like a montage, like this montage of Anthony Mackie's character going back in time with various doses of synchronic and testing out the different theories, and if you do it in one place, will you come back in the same space, and
most importantly, to find Dennis's daughter, which I almost forgot about, during the fun and jovial tone of this whole scene.
It's all actually handled in a really fun, lighthearted manner, similar to the scenes in Shazam with the camcorder where they're testing out the powers, or honestly kind of reminded me of Ant-Man where they were sending him back in time and he was coming back as a baby or as an old man. At this point I realized that over half of the movie we have actually not seen that much of the synchronic use or what it actually can do. And I think that's what actually makes this such a successful idea of a movie. is how small and localized to our two main characters' perspective the idea is. While some movies have a big, grandiose idea and they just keep expanding upon it.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not dogging on a movie for trying to explain the complicated lore that they're trying to set up. It's just sometimes, particularly with smaller budget movies and with newer directors, it can be really hard to accomplish a feat like that. And we can even see that with some of Christopher Nolan's later movies, such as the one that came out last year, Tenet, and even Interstellar to some extent, that building up the lore can sometimes lead to the downfall, as the lore can sometimes be bigger than the movie itself can handle.
This movie gives you a small fraction of a big idea and leaves a lot more to the imagination, as our main character is limited in his intelligence and knowledge, as are we as the audience. Had they have tried to over-explain it with pseudoscience or through another method, it might not have come through as clear, and the ambiguity of the ending might not have rang that true. There's a scene at the very end of the movie that looks like it's about to give you a definite ending and then cuts away before you can actually see it, which, while it may make some people angry, I kind of liked that because it kind of gets your imagination churning and leaves you to kind of wonder what happened there. It makes you rethink other details of the movie to try and see if you can find an argument to support your theory of how the movie actually ended. Something that, when handled the right way, can make or break a movie, and this movie handles it very well. So overall, I think Synchronic was a really good sci-fi movie. I thought Benson and Moorhead did a really good job with their first time having big names on the list. I'm always concerned with these smaller budget films when they do get a big name, because sometimes I feel like the director doesn't really know how to use an actor like that. But these guys really stuck to a story that kept them in the center of focus, even when it wasn't focused on the synchronic, sci-fi, or time travel plot lines. And while their acting was phenomenal, the script for the movie was actually really nice too, with lots of lines calling back to other parts of the movie, as well as quotes that fit very perfectly for even some of the cinematography and soundtrack choices that are used later in the film, making the movie come together like a nice sphere or maybe a Fibonacci sequence, but it works like a big pretzel. I also want to say that it had some really stunning cinematography with some absolutely crazy camera angles, especially that first time that it shows our two main characters going in to do a check-in on an appointment. Just the way the camera followed everyone around the room, spinning around our characters without doing a single cut, smoothly following, kind of building the terror, which the soundtrack even made it almost feel like a horror movie. There's times where our characters are just walking down the street, and because of those insane synth swells in the background, you just got chills waiting for something to happen, which made for a much more intense movie out of what was otherwise actually a pretty slow build. I'm definitely looking forward to what Benson and Moorhead have down the road, and also if you haven't seen Anthony Mackie and Falcon Winter Soldier yet, he's killing it over there. I'm going to go ahead and give Synchronic an 8.1. While it isn't the craziest sci-fi movie I've ever seen, it is definitely worth watching and probably worth picking up to own, as it may require a couple rewatches just to try and grasp what that ending really meant anyways. Have you seen Synchronic? Let us know down below. What did you guys think about it? It was super crazy to me. Definitely excited for next week's movie. Hopefully you guys are too. We'll see you next time. Ben and Bev, out.